Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato Samha Sambuddhassa. Good afternoon, everyone. Now, if you would quickly turn to the first page of the chapter on Chitta. The first page, please, of the chapter on Chitta. For those of you who are taking down notes, if you would take down this note, please. Harida?
Bhante, are you going to page 1 of the book? No, to page 40.
Page of the chapter.
40.
Page 40.
Rootless Consciousness.
No.
It is
first page of the chapter.
First page of the chapter.
What's the page? Page number?
Page number, everyone.
I sent it to you because where we stopped was on 39.
I understand, Devika. I'm giving a note before we go ahead.
All right.
Page 23, I think.
Page 23. Hari. Etana liyaganna. Koing hari. Discerning. So start of the Chitta chapter. I want you to write down somewhere, even on a note, and stick it there. Discerning mentality. Discerning mentality. Number 1. Chitta. Number 2. Nama Dhamma.
Very quick.
Chitta, number 1. Number 2, Nama Dhamma. Number 3, Viti, V long I, THI, at Dwara. Viti at Dwara. Number 4, Bahidda Nama. Number 4, Bahidda Nama. External Nama. External mind. Right? So again, number 1 is Chitta. Number 2, Nama Dhamma. Number 3, Viti at Dwara. And number 4, Bahidda Nama. External mind. How is that? Okay. Now, when it comes to the discernment of mentality, which happens after the discernment of the rupas, for one prominent reason, the reason being the distinguishing of rupa happens first before nama, because we know that rupa persists for 17 mind moments more than a nama. Namaya chittakkana dharmayak nang, namaya, if the nama arises, possesses and passes away, 17 times that of nama is a time frame of a rupa. Right? Hence, we do rupa discernment first and nama discernment second. Right? Through the rupa discernment, the samadhi and the concentration increases. As a result, the mind becomes more acute and able-bodied to be able to penetrate into Nama Dhamma, which is a very fine moment of cognition. Does that make sense, everyone? Right? Now, through that process of mental discernment, the first, meaning the first chitta chapter of Abhidhamma comes into play. That is the first discernment of Nama that you have written as chitta. Right? Chitta. The second, after having discerned chitta, which I will be explaining in time to come as you progress, right? The second is Nama Dhamma. Nama Dhamma is to do with those mental formations associated with the consciousnesses, meaning the Cetasika Dhammas. Meaning the Cetasika Dhammas. Meaning the Cetasika Dhammas. Right? The third is the Viti at the Salayatanas. The Vitis, the mental processes taking place at the Salayatanas. Someone please send, Shriyani, would you send a snapshot to Lakshman who has just joined? Right? Lakshman has just joined Shriyani. Passe snapshot tak yavanna Lakshman. Hare.
Thank you, Ante. Thank you.
All right, Lakshman. Right? Number 4 is, right now, we watch the Vithis happening at the Dwara. Why? To discern this taking of object, how Anusaya arises, and all of those processes is clearly, vividly clear at the process of Viti taking place at the Salayatanas, the 6 sense doors. That is third. The fourth is now having gone through mind and matter within this complex. We are able to discern mind and matter of other complexes, of complexes beyond this complex. That is Bahiddha Nama, external Nama, right? External Nama. Now, this is also because this Abhidhamma Sangaha, as you progress in Vipassana, is also going to be your Nama Rupa Paricheda handbook. Right? Now, let us go on to today's lesson. Now, today's lesson, everyone, these Ahetuka Dhammas, although now Ahetuka Dhammas are rootless Dhammas. Api Anid Dharma Siyallama ivara kara neda? We finish Moha Mula and all of that, isn't it? Karane? Hari. Enang ada Ahetuka apita patan ganna. We have to start the rootless Dhammas, Ahetuka. Right? Dhammas or Chittas. Now, these Ahetuka Chittas are of great importance, everyone. Why the Ahetuka Chittas are of great importance and it's imperative to the seeing of the Salayatanas? Because the Ahetuka Dhammas, or where these rootless Chittas arise, is the same place where the Salayatana process starts. Do you understand? Now, we will go through and it will become far more clearer. But as you would already know, contact occurs when a chakku, for example, if we take the eye door, contact occurs at the place where the eye door, the eye object or rupa rammana, right? And rupa rammana, someone remind Chakku Vinyana, right? Chakku Vinyana kiwane? Chakku Vinyane, Rupa Rammane,
Chakku Prasade.
Chakku Prasade, sorry. Yes, Chakku Prasade, right? When all three of these things come together is where contact occurs, which you have been studying for so long, right? This contact or passa hence arises if we are to take the Chakku Vinyana. Ahetuka is the Chakku Vinyana. Ahetuka chittas are the Chakku Vinyana, the eye consciousness, right? The eye consciousness. When we first go on to the discernment of mentality, this is where exactly we will be starting at. Discernment of what occurs at the six sense doors, right? At the six sense doors. So this understanding of ahetuka is absolutely imperative, right? Absolutely imperative. Now, before we go on and start reading the book, do you have any questions as to what we have already done? Any questions that have arisen in mind? Any doubts? Any areas that you need further clarification? No. Okay. Udayanti?
Bhante, yeah, this I'm a bit confused about this rootless here. So when it's ahetuka, does that mean no hetua? Or what is this root and the hetua?
Hari. Api eකට එමු. ඒක අද
Right.
පන්ති කරන දෙයක්. Hari.
Okay.
Right? අද පන්ති කරන දෙයක්. Now, with regards to then හැම වෙලේම, try to always visualize this and whatever which is being taught in accordance with Vipassana and the meditative practice, right? Now, I have just come across this sutra that I'm going to share with you, right? This sutra that I'm going to share with you, which is the Tanha. Can you see the sutra? Yes? Okay. Now, which is the Vicharita Tanha Sutra. And this sutra, which is in the Anguttara Nikaya, right? Fourth Vagga, discusses the thought courses, that is chitta vrittis, that run in the mind, or mental processes that run rooted in craving. Hence, what are we looking at? We are looking at the lobha moola chittas that manifest itself, right, on a daily basis. Should we have an unguarded mind, manifest itself. That is what we are looking at, right? There's something wrong with my side. Let me just... Yes. Okay. Sorry. Something wrong with my screen. Okay. Right. Now, so the lobha chittas that we have all discussed, this is what we are talking about, everyone, right? And I quite like the fact that I was able to find this sutra, right? Now, in the Tanha Sutra of the Anguttara Nikaya fourth Vagga, right? They talk about thoughts dependent on external aggregates in oneself, 18. Thoughts dependent on external aggregates, 18. Now, the second classification is thought courses, chitta vrittis, rooted in craving, lobha chittas, regarding the past, the present, and the future. 36 each. All amounting to 108 types of lobha chittas that can arise proliferating one thing, I. Proliferating I. How? Right? How? Here. The 18 courses, thought courses, dependent on internal aggregates, right? And what monks are the 18 thought courses rooted in craving, dependent on what is internal? That means the internal aggregate. Ajjattika dharma. Ajjattika dharma kila kiyanne, what do internal aggregates mean? Internal aggregates talk about the 5 pasada rupas, right? So that which arises at the 5 sensitive matter, that is the eye, ear, the tongue, the body, right? And the body. Now, what kind of thoughts? In any circumstance or instance towards anything that arises at the 6 sense doors, We have the inclination of thought where there is asmiti sati. That means I am. I am such. I am like that too. I am otherwise. I do not exist. I exist. I should be. I should be such. I should be like this. I should be otherwise. May I be. May I be such. May I be like this. May I be otherwise. I shall be. I shall be such. I shall be like this. I shall be otherwise. All 18 of this I proclaimed object, right, is Lobha Mula. Is Lobha Mula, should it arise with a beautiful, pleasurable feeling, it is a Somanasa Sahagata Chitta. Should it appear or arise through equanimous feeling, then it is an equanimous Lobha Mula Chitta, right? But in any circumstance or instance, should you have a thought instigated by the idea of I am such, I am like that too, henceforth, all of that fall into Lobha Mula. Lobha Mula. So we can see that in our course of action, even when it comes to the doing of good and pure good, right, there can be such instances where any moment where there's an attribution of connection to I, the Lobha Mula Chitta can arise. The Lobha Mula Chitta can arise. Does that make sense, everyone? Right? I thought I should bring this to light with the sutras for all of you as well, right? And this can be internal and external. Internal and external. Now, let us go down to today's lesson. Right?
Bhante,
Yeah.
that sutta, will you be posting it so that we could print it?
Yes, I can, Devika.
Yes, please.
I will.
Thank you.
Now, here, everyone, we have completed Rootless 18. How exciting. Rootless 18. Rootless consciousness, 18 in number. Ahetuka chittas. Ahetuka. Hetu is root. Ahetuka is rootless. Chittani, consciousness. Right? First, we have unwholesome resultant consciousness. Right? Unwholesome resultant consciousnesses. 1, eye consciousness accompanied by equanimity, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, all equanimity, tongue consciousness, body consciousness accompanied by pain, receiving consciousness accompanied by equanimity, investigating consciousness accompanied by equanimity. These 7 are unwholesome resultant types of consciousness, right? Of consciousness. Now, rootless consciousness, ahetuka chittani. The word ahetuka means without roots. The word ahetuka means without roots and qualifies those consciousness, those types of consciousness that are devoid of mental factors called hetus. Now we know there are 6 hetus: greed, hatred, delusion, non-greed, non-hatred, non-delusion. 3 good, 3 bad. These chittas are devoid of all 6 sort of roots. These types, 18 in number, do not contain any of the 3 unwholesome roots: greed, hatred, and delusion, nor do they contain the 3 bright roots or good roots: non-greed, non-hatred, non-delusion. which may be either wholesome or indeterminate, upekka. Since a root is a factor which helps to establish stability in a chitta, those chittas which lack roots are weaker than those which possess them. The 18 types, the 18 chittas in this class fall into 3 groups: unwholesome resultants, wholesome resultants, and functional consciousness. This is going to be the only place that you're going to be seeing that a functional consciousness arises within a mundane being. That is, you're going to find the 5 sense door adverting consciousness, which is a very important consciousness for us to know, and the mind door adverting consciousness, the manodvara vajana and the panchadvara vajana, right? And the other one is hasitupada chitta, which only arises for enlightened beings. This is the chitta that they smile with, right? This is the chitta that they smile with. Now, akusala vipaka chittani, unwholesome resultant consciousness. The first category of rootless consciousness comprises the 7 types of consciousness that result from unwholesome karma. These types of consciousness are not themselves unwholesome, but karmically indeterminate. Avyakata. The word unwholesome, akusala, here means that they are resultants produced by unwholesome karma. The word qualifies not these states of consciousness themselves, but the karma from which they are born. From the karma from which they are born. Now, the first category, everyone, is akusala chittas. Now, when we are talking about, we've now done the akusala chittas. We've done the 12 types of unwholesome consciousnesses. Now, these unwholesome consciousnesses that arise, as they arise, they are able to create karmas. Now, not to confuse any of you, but in a mental process, we have something called a bhavanga, right? We have something called a bhavanga or a mental continuum. Then arises a panchadvara vajana, which is a resultant rootless consciousness. Then arises, let us say in the instance of taking an object of the eye, there arises something called an eye consciousness, which is again a ahetuka or a rootless consciousness, right? Then arises a sampatichana and a santirana consciousness, which is a receiving and investigating consciousness, which is also ahetuka. Then arises a manodvara vachana, or the vottapana, as you might know it better, right? Which is again a ahetuka chitta. Afterwards, what arises? Our favorite out of all, the javanas. The javana consciousnesses arise. And javana consciousnesses are what? They are karma consciousnesses, right? Javana consciousnesses are karma consciousnesses, meaning they produce karma. Do you understand? They produce karma. Only in this instance of an enlightened being's javana do they not produce karma. In all other instances, they produce karma. Then runs 2 tadalambanas, right? Now, let's forget about the javanas and the rest, right? The first part of these consciousnesses, everyone, they are all ahetuka, isn't it? They're all ahetuka, rootless. Now, when they are rootless, do they produce karma? They do not produce karma. Why? Because they are rootless. Is the object known through the rootless? Is the object known through the rootless? What do you think?
Just aware, don't identify the object, but just aware of the object.
Just aware of the object.
Yeah.
Just aware of the object. Okay. Okay. Interesting. What else? Anyone else? Anyone else? Right. Now, if we say that there is awareness, right? Now, however much, I mean, not really. Sorry. Although now awareness, it is important to note. I know that the easiest terminology that we could use would be to say we are just simply aware. But I understand, Malkanti, what you're trying to say, right? And I think in essence, you are right, right? However, awareness is not the right word to use, right? And I'm going to show you why, right? Is everyone with me? Are we on the same page, everyone? Right? Now, the question is, do we know the object during these ahetuka chittas? And the answer is yes and no, right? The yes and no, but we have to understand that fine line between being aware and knowing, right? And it is a very difficult thing to explain or put into the English language, because I think even if we say aware, right, we have a sense of what it is, you know, even in plain consciousness or awareness, right? Now here, everyone, this is a bit too much for you right now, but can you see this chart, everyone? Now see, everyone. Now we are referring to, I know it looks a little bit confusing, but I just divert your attention to this part here. Hari, these are the ahetuka chittas, the 5 pairs of sense consciousness. So you have 10 here, which is chakku, sota, gana, jivha, kaya. Chakku, sota, gana, jivha, kaya, 1 akusala, 1 kusala, rooted. But, I'm sorry, not rooted, resultant. Resultant of good and bad karma. These are the rootless consciousnesses. Now there are 10 here, right? There are 10. Now look at this here. This is the universals, right? The universals. Under universals, what do you have? Right now, this is English. Let me change to Pali. Sorry. Pali. Right? Right. Now these, Puncture, Vijnana, 10. What does that have? Oh, it doesn't say the Pali here. Okay, going back. Sorry. Right. Right. What do we have? We have Hassa, Vedana, Sanya, Chetana, Ekagata, Jivit Indriya, Mansikar. Right? Now, do you understand the fine line when I'm showing you this? This Chakku Vijnana, this eye consciousness, bear with me, everyone, I will explain to those of you who do not get it. The 5, the Kusala and the Akusala, ahetuka, rootless consciousnesses, 10 all, right? Only have the universal Chetasikas. Now, we do not know the Chetasikas as yet, but here, I'm just going to show you this example, just for us, our lesson to be infinitely more clear today. Within those consciousnesses, we have Phassa, Vedana, Sanya, Chetana, Ekagata, Jivita Indriya, Manasikara. No sati. No sati. Do you understand? The Chetasika of sati is not here. If the Chetasika of awareness is not here, then it is not correct to use the word awareness in this case scenario to truly understand the dimension of this consciousness. Does that make sense, everyone? Right? Does that make sense? Now we are relating to eye, ear, nose, tongue, body consciousness, right? Body consciousness arising as a result of past good and bad karma. Good and bad karma. Now, when it comes to, I'll leave it at that for now. This part I will explain after we finish today's lesson, right? When it comes to the rest, there is Sampatichana, Santirana, right? Panchadvara Vajana, Manodvara Vajana, the instance is different. But, however, full awareness of the object, everyone, full awareness of the object lays at the javana. At the javana. Do you understand? Right? Now let us take this example. There is a warehouse, right? A truck brings goods and parks itself at the warehouse door. The Chakku Vijnana lets the truck through inside the warehouse. Do you understand? Sampatichana, Santirana, the receiving and investigating, carries the goods from the truck. Now, no one knows the components of it. Carries the good from the truck into the warehouse. That is Sampatichana Santirana. Do you understand? Right? Still, the goods have not been opened from its package. Right? The javana process, the impulsion process, is where the goods are opened. Right? Is where the goods are opened and its contents revealed. Does that make sense, everyone? For now, just for now, right? That makes.
So what happened to Vottapana there? Vottapana?
Yes. Vottapana in that scenario, right? The manodvara vachana, the mind or adverting consciousness, there alerts to say there are goods to be opened.
Yeah.
There are goods to be opened. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Right? There are goods to be opened. That is done by the Vottapana. But the goods have already arrived in the warehouse. Right? And the javana, the manager, whoever that is in charge of this, now comes and opens and sees, oh, what is this? Do you understand? Does that make sense? Yes, dear.
Bhante, I understand what you said. My question is, Bhante, now awareness was mentioned. It is not a universal one, but it does come in the beautiful Chetasikas. Sati comes there, no, Bhante, with faith, Shraddha, Sati, but that's different, isn't it? Because it's not universal. Mindfulness, Sati.
Yes.
It's a Chetasica.
Why are you talking about the beautiful Chetasika? That has nothing to do with this.
No, yes, because this is the rootless ones we're talking about.
Yes.
And we mentioned that those, the universals with the seven that were mentioned doesn't have that. So because it's not rootless, that is why you didn't mention it, though it is a Chetasika.
Yeah, because beautiful consciousnesses, beautiful Chetasis do not arise with the rootless still.
Thank you, Bhante. Thank you.
Yes, Shriyani.
Bhante, Santirana, Sampatichana situation, is it that Sanyava? Sampatichana is Sanyava and the Santirana is Sankara?
Yeah. There is Sanya in all. Everything has sanya. Why? Universals, no? At every process, there is sanya. But the question is, Shriyani, what level of perception is there is the question, right? What level of perception is there is the question. That level of perception varies, right? Level of perception varies. Now, let us say you see an object that is familiar to you, right? Familiar. You have history with this object. Let us say it is one of those, let us say, a rare but nice dish that you've consumed, places that you've traveled, and you have enough history. You've eaten it so many times in so many different countries or places that now when you're eating it, you're also comparing it with those memories that you've had with the dish all over the place, right? Now, let us say, now that sort of sanya, Shriyani, with regard to that sort of object would be far more. Why? You have history with this. You have memories that make the mind even more, the quality of grasping is far more. Because now, not only are you thinking about this dish that you're eating right now, you're also rethinking and reliving the taste that you experience all around the world with it. Right? Now, then let us say you are now, in the same example, you are eating something that you've never had before, right? You've never had before. You don't have that sense of any sort of memory with it. You've never heard about it. You have never even come across it. Now the level of perception sanya is varying according to the object. So it is all to do with that object. Sanya, perception, is a universal cetasika, which we have not done as yet, but only to give you an idea that about the varying nature of that perception. Okay, right? Pushpa, yes?
Bhante, you mentioned varying levels of perception. Is that the reason that there is a difference between knowing and awareness? You said there is a difference between knowing and awareness.
Yes.
Does that associate with level of perception?
That's a very tough question. Okay, let me think about that, right? Knowing has more to do, now if we are taking, let us say, of a meditation object, knowing has more to do with vitakka vichara, right? If we are taking something which is an element of prajna, knowing has more to do with then prajna, right?
Yeah.
Knowing in a meditative setting is more to do within the balance of vitakka vichara, prajna, sati, prajna, right? That is how you know of an object. To know means you know its context, you know its contents, you know in and its outs, right? Awareness does not mean that you have penetrative knowing, but you are simply aware of its presence. Right? Now, the sanya in knowing is different to the sanya in awareness. That is definitely sure, right? Because when it comes to something that you know, there is more connection between the observer and the object. There is more connection there. Hence, the sanya is different. Please know that when it comes to these sorts of experiences, moment to moment, the qualities of the mind, the energy of the mind varies, right? So, for example, let us say you're determined to sit down for meditation and to do it properly and to really, I'm sorry, but to really sort of let go of everything else, and you're really 100% authentically, genuinely with the moment, the meditation will progress better. Let us say you're just doing it because you're with a group and you don't really feel like it, but you have to push yourself to do it, then the consciousness energy is different, right? We'll leave it at that for now, right?
Yeah.
We'll leave it at
Yes,
that
Bhante.
now. Now,
as I understand, awareness is generally what the sanya, level of sanya is that it's just in the background.
Well, sanya is a bit,
Level of perception.
sanya is a little bit more prominent than just saying it's just in the background for sure.
Yeah, okay, then we'll leave it at that.
Right? But
That-
know everyone, wherever there is a chitta, there is a vedana. Wherever there is a chitta and a vedana, there is a sanya.
Yeah.
Right? Chitta is sankhara khandha, right? The aggregate of consciousness. Vedana, chetasika, is the vedana khandha, the aggregate of feeling. And sanya is the sanya khandha, the aggregate of perception. These are threefold parts of the nama khandha.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, back to the lesson.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah. Thank you, Bhante.
Chakra-vinyana, of course, Pushpa. Eye consciousness. Chakra-vinyana. The first 5 types of resultant consciousnesses in both classes. So there is a Chakra-vinyana in Kusala, there's a Chakra-vinyana in Akusala. Right? Let me just see, is there a chart here? Right, here you go. Right, just take a look here, everyone. Right? Now you see, these are the 18 types of Ahetuka Chittas. Right? You have the first 7 are unwholesome. Right? And the next 8 are wholesome, resultant. Right? The 5 Dvipancha Vinyanas are the 5 twofold set of 5, right? Dvipancha Vinyana. Both of the Kusala and the Akusala have a eye consciousness, a ear consciousness, a nose consciousness, a tongue consciousness, a body consciousness. A body consciousness. In the wholesome as well, you see the same being there. Now, let us come back. Right? The first 5 types of resultant consciousness in both classes, the unwholesome resultants and the wholesome resultants, are those that are based on the sensitive matter, pasada, of the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body. Right? Pasada. Now, you see, the Chakku Vinyana arises where? It arises at the Chakku Pasada, right? Or the eye sensitivity. Where is the eye sensitivity? The eye sensitivity is where the light falls on the eye, so the retina, right? But would we be fair to say the retina is a Chakku Pasada? No. The Chakku Pasada are on those little minute specks that absorb or take or interpret that visual data. Do you understand? Right? Do you understand? Does that make sense, everyone? Right? Now, let us talk about the tongue, right? The taste buds. Now, would we be right in saying the Chakku Pasada is the tongue? No, incorrect. The Chakkupada, Jivha Pasada is the tongue, right? No, incorrect. The Jivha Pasada is in those particles that take taste as object. Is that clear? Does that make sense, everyone? Right? Does that make sense? Any question on that regard? No question. Okay. Right. Now, Chakku, okay, here, sensitive matter, pasada of the eye, the ear, the nose, the tongue, and the body. These 10 chittas are collectively designated the 2 sets of 5-fold sense consciousness. Right? two set of the fivefold sense consciousness. This is called Dvipancha Vijnana. Do highlight it in your book if you haven't already. That word rises again and again and again. The Dvipancha Vijnana means the two sets of sensory percepting consciousnesses that are in the ahetuka, the rootless, unwholesome group, and the wholesome group. That is what you mean by Dvipancha Vijnana. Now, if I might ask you a question, is there a difference between the wholesome and unwholesome, rootless Dvipancha Vijnanas, or the two sets of fivefold sense consciousness? Is there a difference between them?
But there's a difference.
There is a difference.
Good. What is the difference?
The difference is, Bhante, one is resultant from the kusala kamma, and the other is the resultants of akusala kamma.
Okay, wonderful. Is there a, so the karma that produced them is different. Okay, fair enough.
There is
Is
not
yeah.
the difference because the body conscious one is dukkha in one and it's sukha in the other one. The five, if you take it, because they all are equanimity.
Body. Okay.
Yes.
Now, when it comes to the actual consciousnesses, not where they have come from, but the actual consciousnesses unfolding, what is the difference? Shall I just put up the chart for you all? When you look at the consciousnesses unfolding here, so I'm talking about this and this, right? Only the Dvipancha Vijnana, right? Of both. What is the difference, everyone? Is there a difference?
Bhante, they're all equanimity, isn't it?
Hmm?
Equanimity, is it that?
No, the receiving one is different and the
I'm talking about the workings, its manifestation, its experience. What do you think?
The difference between wholesome and unwholesome, is it because they are wholesome resultants, Bhante?
ඒක already කිව්වනේ හේම මාලි. ඒක හේම මාලි කිව්වා. හරි. What do you think?
Is it that the object, Bhante, object is different, unpleasant and pleasant? Is it that?
That's the pain and the pleasure, the dukkha.
Okay. Anyone else? Anyone with their cameras off? Lakshman? What do you think, Lakshman?
I think there's no difference really, because they're all equanimity. So I don't think there's a difference, Bhante.
Tell us a bit more. Is it just because of it being equanimous that you think there is no difference?
And also one of them results in, no, then it's a difference, isn't it? One is a pain, results in pain, and the other one joy. So from
yeah,
that
I'm asking Lakshman, not the name of it. I'm asking with regards to the experience, the unfolding of the consciousness.
But there are 7 in the
Lakshman is answering. Yes, Lakshman.
Well, no, because all of them refer to the 5 senses. So that's why I think there's no difference. They all refer to the 5 sense organs.
Okay. Okay.
And what else can I say?
Anyone else?
Sampatitana Bhante, in the unwholesome, there is only 1 and 1 investigation, but there is 1 and 2 in the wholesome. Bhante.
Yes. Again, Dil, I'm talking about the experience, the unfolding of the chitta.
Is there no difference, Bhante? Because there is no roots
Lobha, Moha, Dvesha, both are the same no, because it's ahetuka, rootless.
Ahetuka, rootless. So, as Lakshman said, there is no difference. The Pancha Vinyana, Kusala and Akusala, the only thing with regards, no, when it comes to the unfolding of the consciousness, there is no difference. Just imagine when the I consciousness has to operate, the Chakku Vinyana arises, giving it a little jolt of energy for that specific moment to take the Varna Rupa. That is the I consciousness. The I consciousness knows nothing about the object or the Rupa that it has taken in. It knows not about the color or the differences of color. It simply gives a little speck of energy to activate the retina to take in that object. Same with the Jivha consciousness, the tongue consciousness. It simply activates, gives that energy, right, for that taste to be felt, tasted. Does that make sense? So these ahetuka consciousnesses, whilst the consciousness itself is so weak, not because of anything, only because they are resultant, rootless. They don't, it's like a tree without roots. A great storm comes, the tree is in the air, right? It doesn't, however, all of our worldly issues are because of these damn 12. All of the issues we have in our minds and our lives and everything is because of these 18, everyone. 17. Why? Because it is through these consciousnesses that the Salayatana takes object. That the Salayatanas. So, these sense of Mamayane, this I concept, the self, everything is established at these processes where these Dvipancha Vinyanas arise in cognizing the objects. Does that make sense, everyone? Right? So, the Chakku Vinyana energizes that retina at that moment for a tiny moment, a Chittakana, just to take that vibration, that energy of what is being reflected upon the retina. The ear consciousness just activates the ear for that singular speck of a moment, just to see what is in their sense field. The tongue the same, the body the same. Is that clear, everyone? Does that make sense to you? Yes, Shriyani.
Bhante, I don't understand what is Puncture here.
Puncture is Dvi is 2, Pancha is 5, Vinyana is consciousness. Two
so what are the two?
5. Kusala, Akusala Vipaka, unwholesome resultant and wholesome resultant. There are 2 chakkus there, 2 sotas, 2 ganas, 2 jibhas, and 2 kayas. Altogether 5 consciousness, so 2 pairs of 5. That is Dvipancha Vinyana. Another.
Yeah.
Did you understand? Here you go, Shriyani again. Then me balanna. I, metana unwholesome resultant. There's a eye, there's a ear, there's a nose, there's a tongue, there's a body. Right? So that is one pair of the unwholesome resultant. Then we have under the wholesome resultant, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body. Another pair. Vipancha, 2 sets of 5. Vipancha Vinyana. Right? Vipancha Vinyana. Does that make sense, Shriyani?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions, anyone? Right. The I consciousness arises based upon I sensitivity. Its function is simply to see, to cognize directly and immediately, right? This see, everyone, don't take it as a active seeing. That is not an active seeing, right? To cognize directly and immediately the visible object. The other types of sense consciousness also arise based upon their respective sensitivity, right? Chakku, Sota, Gana, Jiva, Kaya. And their function is simply to cognize their respective objects, simply to cognize. So, Malkanti, the word which would be proper is to simply cognize, not aware, to cognize sense object. Yeah, to cognize. To hear sounds, to smell smells, to taste tastes, and to feel tangibles. However, this taste or smells, you still don't know, but you're simply taking that taste or smell in, right? In to the mental continuum. In the case of unwholesome resultants, the object is unpleasant or undesirable, anitta. However, the impact of the object on the first four sense faculties is weak, and thus the associated feeling is neutral. The impact of the object on the first four sense faculties is weak, and thus the associated feeling is neutral or equanimity, right? Or equanimity. Does that make sense, everyone? It is weak. But in the case of unwholesome resultant body consciousness, the object's impact on the body is strong, and thus the accompanying feeling is bodily pain, dukkha, right? Bodily pain, dukkha. Does that make sense, everyone? Right? Bodily pain. It is more grosser there. Why is it gross, everyone? Why is it grosser? What do you think?
Because it comes in contact with the body, other things are outside, the eye and things are outside, but this is actually touching you. You can feel it more grosser.
What about food? Then what is the difference between food and touch? What do you think?
I think that I'm just thinking, man.
Yes, of course.
But it's because the sensitivity of the body, the fingers and the touch, it's a very sensitive thing, more than the taste buds and things. So therefore you feel it much stronger, man.
Ravini?
Probably.
Sorry.
Yeah, go on, Ravini.
So I suppose because pain is almost like a response to potential danger, it's a lot more so it's a lot more potent and it's a lot stronger because it's more of a sort of instinctive response, I suppose, rather than sort of based on a judgment. It's more based on a sort of survival instinct, I suppose. So it is stronger that way.
But however, Ravini, in this case, in this position, right, as we mentioned, this has not gone into javana. This has not gone into a javana as yet. This is only that initial taking of object, right? Taking of object. So why is it stronger? You get what I mean? We could have taken what you just said would have been potent if we were talking about a javana process. This has not gone into javana. We are at the basic moment where the impingement occurs. Where the impingement occurs.
Bhante, it is because your still your mind is not tuned to your meditative process?
No, so this would be true to meditators and non-meditators. This would be true to meditators and non-meditators. So what do we think?
External object is stronger than the other objects.
Correct. External object is stronger than the other faculties, right? External object is stronger because the object is arising out of a resultant of akusala. The external impingement upon the area of the body also is far more grosser in comparison to something as, let us say, the taste buds. Right? The taste buds. For example, the taste buds take a stronger volume of, they only take the taste of the object. It is far more subtle in comparison to the nature of what is taken in. Does that make sense? Now, color is just color. The feeling, the tactile, there is the feeling what the object is grosser in nature. Since the object is grosser in nature, there can be dukkha feeling connected to. However, is there dukkha feeling at the moment of impingement? Now they say there is bodily feeling. Right? What is this bodily pain? Is it experienced right at the moment of impingement? What do you think? No wrong answers, just answer. It's fine.
I think so.
At the moment?
I don't think so.
No, the dukkha, the pleasure comes before the dukkha.
The pleasure comes before the dukkha. That's a Dhamma talk on its own, Shriyani. The pleasure comes before the dukkha. Right. What do the others think?
No, Bhante, there is no pain.
There is no feeling. Okay, there is no pain at the time of this cognizing, right? Okay, there's no pain at the time of cognizing. Then, what in the world is this talking about? What is this bodily pain here? Why is there pain here, you see? In the unwholesome resultant, what is the difference between this bodily pain here and this pleasure here? What is the difference of this consciousness?
Because they are unwholesome and wholesome.
Yeah, Rivini?
Well, in that moment, you don't know whether it's going to be pleasant or painful. So would it be because it's a result of a karma that created you to experience that? So is it because of past karma?
So just as the others said as well, I think Devika also said it just now, right? The only difference between these two, the wholesome and the unwholesome resultant, right, causing the unwholesome saying or named as pain, and the what is this? The wholesome resultant as pleasure is because everyone, simply because of the place it arises from. That is what the past karma, right? There is no sense of different Vedana here. Does that make sense? There is no different Vedana here, but they only differentiate between the body consciousness with pain and body consciousness with pleasure only to point out the grossness of tactile feel and the place it arose from, or where that resultant came from, which is a karma in the past. Does that make sense, everyone? Does that make sense? Right? So even if it is a body consciousness with pleasure or a body consciousness with pain, right? So just because you have a body consciousness with pain does not mean that you'll be hurting. Just because you will have a body consciousness with pleasure does not mean that you will have pleasure. However, the experience, the object might be a painful object or a pleasurable object. But at the end of the day, if let us say the mind is developed, the pleasurable and the unpleasurable object can both be put into upekka, to equanimity. But that is at the moment of the, what is the magic word? What is our favorite word?
Javana.
Javana. The javanas, right? The javanas. So that demarcation, the Vedana demarcation happens at the moment of javana, not at the moment of the Dvipancha Vinyanas. Is that clear, everyone? Does that make sense? Right? Now let us say this example. Can one say a person develops jhanas, meditative, and so much so that the person is able to astral project oneself into the divine realms, right? Divine realms. Can we say the person, now he goes to the divine realms and he's looking around, he's seeing the beauty and all of these things, right? Now can we say the person saw that because of his past karma? Do you understand the question? Am I clear? Right? A person develops, a mundane human develops jhanas and all of that and projects oneself into the divine realms and experiences the beauty and the lush of the divine realms, right? The heavenly abodes. And now in seeing so, can we say that the person sees all of that or is experiencing that environment because of past karma?
No.
Why not?
It's the present state of the mind, the consciousness, present state of the consciousness that makes it beautiful.
The present state of consciousness that makes it
Rituja? Because of the Rituja?
Utuja?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Utuja, yeah.
It
could be that. Because he's in a different place now, because it's the environment that created that, it is the environment that he is in or she is in.
So is it a yes or no?
Yes, I think that's how I think, yeah.
Yes, in the sense, yes, he sees it because of past karma?
Yeah, yeah.
He sees it because of past karma.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else?
The past karma could be one of the reasons, one of the causes.
Okay. It is because of past karma that he sees all of this, right? So yes, one of the causes. Okay. Anyone else? Anyone else?
Can I unmute myself, please, Bhante?
You are unmuted.
I don't think that is true because of his development in jhanas, that he's seeing, he's experiencing the pleasure.
Okay. Okay. Experience the pleasure of those states.
Yeah,
right?
Because of his power of the present moment.
Okay. 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 Anyone else? Udayanti, what do you think, Udayanti?
No. It's something that is happening now. So nothing to do with the past.
That is happening now. Nira, what do you think, Nira?
Bhante, I think when you meditate and when you reach that potential, you are experiencing it by yourself.
Present action.
Yes, so I think it's more in the present that you are.
Right. So the answer, thank you, Nira, thank you. And the answer would be, one goes to the divine realms because of current present action, right? But the process of seeing, or the enabling, the ability to see, not see what, the ability to see comes from the ahetuka chittas that we are talking about today. Right? The ahetuka chitta, the ability to see, not see what, the ability to see. Right? The ability to see. Big difference. If you say see what, then you're literally saying that I'm seeing all of this because of past karma, which can be true. Right? Which can be true. Let us say you are born in hell for some reason, and you are now experiencing the hellfire, right? You're experiencing that for your past karma, right? However, because now in that state, it's a very passive state where you only have to experience, right? If it is a place like Niraya, as they speak of, moment to moment, every second, right? Actually, they say that there is no time there. It is only pain, right? Only pain, right? Why is there no, that's the interesting question. Why is there no time in hell? What do you think?
Karma is so bad, Bhante, so there is no time in hell.
What else do we think?
Unlike the human, right, the time span is like in the Brahma lokas and Deva lokas, it's a long periods of time. So therefore, time is supposed to be in the moment. It's, as you're born, you die in the pain, you're born and you die.
That's a good input actually there. We could also ask, why is it that time is slower in the divine realms? But Rimini, what do you think?
Yes, I was going to say something similar to Dil's point, actually.
Hmm.
Could it be a Dhamma niyama? Because it's like explaining something that we can't really explain with our logic, because it's similar to, I think, in the hell realms, there's enhanced healing, I think, or something, like you heal from your wounds faster so that you can experience more pain. So maybe it's something like that where we can't really cognize it on our level of sort of time and how we heal. Maybe.
Well, the reason that is stated is because there is no change in hell. The pain is constant and continuous. Hence, there is no demarcation of time. Do you understand, everyone? When you are listening to me, and as I speak words and you cognize, there's a beginning and end to my word and to your hearing. Hence, you know that time or impermanence has occurred. In hellfire or Avicii, what happens is the pain from the moment of birth in that realm to the end, it's one entire mass of constant suffering. Hence, there is no time. Why? Time is a measurement of impermanence. Time is not real. Time is a name that we give to the measure of impermanence. There is no impermanence in hell up until you die from that state and you're reborn in a different state. I'm talking specifically about Avicii, because there are other hell states which there is time. But the lowest hell state does not have time. It's one. So if you're there for 1,000,000 years, right, you will not know that you're there for 1,000,000 years. Why? It would be one constant pain. Scary, isn't it? Very scary. Very, very scary. Right? So don't do dosa mula chittas, huh? Right. Now, coming back to the lesson, everyone. Right? The other question is, why is time in the divine realm so slow? Or rather, why in comparison, of course, we are comparing with the human realm. Why is it so slow? What do you think? Any idea?
The lifespan is so much more there than here.
True. Why?
So much of merit, Bhante.
So much of merit.
Opposite of pain, pleasure.
Because of the luxury, Bhante.
Luxury.
Luxury?
So have it while it's going.
What are the other reasons?
If it's the case in hell, the time is the case.
Yeah.
In that case, this is also the opposite of that timing. Is that right?
Opposite. The body of experience is far more fine than the gross human body. The finer the physicality is, the lesser time moves. Do you understand? So does it make sense, everyone? The finer that body is, the finer, this only happens in this class, huh? I don't know why. Balloons and lights and right. The finer the body is, the lesser the time. So again, time is just a manifestation of impermanence. That impermanence that happens in the divine realms as the realm progress is lesser, right? Is lesser. Now, coming back to the lesson, here. Now we have Chakku Vinyana, right? Receiving consciousness, Sampatichana Chitta. When a sense object impinges on a sense faculty, at one of the 5 sense doors, visible form on the eye, right? Example, visible form on the eye. First, there arises a chitta adverting to the object. Immediately after this, eye consciousness arises, adverting to the objects, that is Panchadvara Vajana, right? We will cover that in a bit. Eye consciousness arises, seeing that form, but know that this seeing is not the seeing that you think, right? It is only the taking of object, varna, color. This act of seeing lasts only for a single mind moment. Immediately thereafter, arises a chitta which apprehends or receives the object that had been seen by eye consciousness, that apprehends or receives the object that had been seen by the eye consciousness, right? This is the receiving consciousness, which results from the same type of karma that produced the eye consciousness, right? Which results from the same type of karma that produced the eye consciousness. Let's read the Santirana and I will explain both of them together. Investigating consciousness, Santirana. This is another rootless resultant consciousness, which arises immediately after the receiving consciousness. Its function is to investigate or examine the object that had just been cognized by the sense consciousness and apprehended by the receiving consciousness. The receiving consciousness and the investigating consciousness only arise in the 5 sense doors. So both of these, receiving and investigating, arise at the place the object was cognized. Is that clear? Right? You can see all of these through meditation, everyone. Right? You can see these are not just frivolous tales of, it's not so. You can see this, right? Apprehended by the receiving consciousness. The receiving consciousness and investigating consciousness arise only in the 5 sense doors, and both are of past karma. Now, what do we think about that? First of all, we had a Chakku Vinyana, right? First, we had the Panchadvara Vajna, but we are not going to talk about that, right? First, the Chakku Vinyana arises, eye consciousness. Then arises the receiving consciousness. Then arises the investigating consciousness. And after the investigating consciousness arises the Vattapana, or the mind or process consciousness. Okay? Now, the Chakku Vinyana takes the impingement, right? Translates that data into data that can be now perceived through the mind door. Why? How do we know this? Because eye consciousness is a consciousness. Do you understand? Right? Is a consciousness. When this occurs, now the door has to close. It can only take one frame, right? So it's like, do you understand? So now what happens? Chakku Vinyana, done. Then there is an object. First, it is held at receiving, right? Then the receiving fades, ceases. Then that same object is held at investigation. This investigation, afterwards arises the mind-o adverting, where now it prepares for opening the package. Think of it like this. Same example, the truck with the goods. The truck comes to the door of the warehouse, right? Now focus, everyone. The truck comes to the door of the warehouse. The Chakku Vinyana opens the door so that the truck can move into the warehouse, right? Now the truck is inside the warehouse, right? Now, the receiving consciousness, right? Receiving consciousness takes over the goods. Takes over the goods. Is that clear? Takes over the goods from the truck driver now to the warehouse, right? The investigating consciousness, right? The investigating consciousness, all ahetuka, rootless. So nothing much is done in these. The investigating consciousness simply, now the goods have been received, that investigating consciousness again from the receiving takes the object to now as a preparatory stage to Manodvara Vajana, or the preparing stage for the investigation of the object. Does that make sense? Right? So in investigating, now it says investigate. Now this word, I really dislike this word because it's so confusing, isn't it? I was so confused with investigating because the English term says investigating and we don't investigate. You know nothing about the object. So why are you using the word investigating, right? But this is the word that is used. So let's try to deal with it, right? Here, there is no, you don't know the object, but think of it like this. There is no investigation really. However, this object, now in the process of investigating, simply takes, right, the object or prepares now this mental object to be processed. At the mind or adverting consciousness, through habit, through hetu phala, cause and effect, what happens is you have two routes: right attention or wrong attention. Right attention or wrong attention. Yoniso manasikara or ayoniso manasikara. Now, this product that has now been, how is it going to be processed? That is determined by the mind or adverting, right? Just the energy to say yoniso manasikara or ayoniso manasikara. If the mind's tendency with the object that has now been taken in and all of those reasons, if it goes on the ayoniso manasikara, your reaction is going to be with lobha, with dosa or moha, with greed or anger or delusion, right? If it is going to fall on the process of yoniso manasikara, ayoniso manasikara is greed, hatred or delusion. If it is yoniso manasikara, it is non-greed, non-hatred, non-delusion. Does that make sense? So now you have been put, mind or adverting puts you on the mind or how it's going to be produced. And the javanas rip it open and process it however it should be processed. Do you understand? Does that make sense, everyone? Right? The entire process you don't have to understand right now. The only reason why I took up this process, which is in the 3rd chapter that we are going to be completing, is because to gauge what exactly this samparichana and santina or receiving and investigating does, right? So receiving and investigating, right? This holding of object, right? Simply holds the object till a moment of processing, right? Processing. We know that it takes one mind moment for a mental impinged object to mature. Do you understand? It takes one mind moment for any object to mature, right? For any object to mature. Does that make sense?
So, Bhante, are you then saying that the receiving consciousness just receives and then the investigation doesn't investigate, it just takes it and hands it over to the Vattapana or the mind?
Yeah.
And the mind, all it does is it prepares, it only prepares, it doesn't open to say whether it is yoniso or ayoniso, lobhadohomo or alobhadohomo. And then only when it comes to the jhana that it opens and looks at everything. Is that what you're explaining, Bhante? I have got it wrong.
To a certain extent, you're correct. To a certain extent, you're wrong. So you're right.
Tell me where I'm wrong, Bhante. That's what I want.
Well, if you say, I mean, yes, as the example goes, we say, okay, it takes the object and gives it to the mind, which does not happen, right? Which does not happen. So other than that, you're right. That is what I said, right? So here, what we have to understand is any object needs one mind moment to mature, right? To mature. Now, let me just connect my iPad so I can draw something for you, right? Okay. Now, this is important, everyone, okay? Now, in a mental continuum, there can be a chitta, right? This is a consciousness. Now we know in the present moment, there can be only one consciousness per moment, right? We can only have one consciousness per moment, right? Per moment. Since we only have one consciousness per moment, consciousnesses, they arise and they pass. which we call rising and falling, right? Now, this consciousness that we are talking about, when there is no object, what do we call the mind? We call the mind by this term. If you don't understand fully what we are talking about, it is fine. I'm just trying to, we are going to be covering all of this in great detail, but let's try to get the gist of this, right? When the mind has no object, what do you call the mind? Anyone?
Bhavanga?
Correct. Bhavanga. Right? You call the Bhavanga, or in English, life continuum. Right? Life continuum. Now, when this Bhavanga is flowing, what happens is, it flows, one consciousness arises and passes, then another consciousness arises and passes, then another consciousness arises and passes, then another consciousness arises and passes, and as they arise and pass, these disappear. Make sense? Right? Makes sense? Now, when one consciousness arises and passes, one arises and passes, another arises after its passing, right? There is no gap, right? There is no gap. Now, this consciousness, when there is, now let me just draw the previous Bhavangas, this continues. This continues for as long as there is no object. Do you understand? When there is no object. Now remember, the only moment that you can have a Bhavanga is at 2 times. Whilst you're in deep sleep, or in between consciousness processes. Do you understand? Between mind or 5 sense door processes, you can have a short Bhavanga, right? Or when you're in deep sleep. Does that make sense, everyone? Is that clear? Those are the only 2 places you can have a Bhavanga. Now, when this happens, let us say now an object impinges on this. An object impinges at this moment. Right? Object. Now, can the object mature to give rise right at that moment? What do you think? What do you think?
No, it can't, Bhante.
No, it can't. Thank you. That was Lakshman, if I'm right. Yes?
Yeah.
Thank you, Lakshman. It can't. Why can't that object give rise at that moment, Lakshman?
Because it has to go through the process of one of the Salyatanas has to recognize it. It has to come into your mind, and it has to receive it and investigate it, and then only it get registered into your mind. You just see it you only see it at this one moment, and then it has to go through this whole process of the Chitta Vidhi from one to the other.
Okay. Not exactly, but Rivini?
I think from the moment of it impinging, there needs to be at least 3 chittakshanas of it arresting the bhavanga before it can then start the chittaviti of cognizing the object.
It needs 1 mind moment to mature. The object has to mature, right? So look at this green line that I'm drawing. The object came in here. right? It gives rises, full impact happens one mind moment after. Does that make sense, everyone? The full impact of that object is seen one mind moment after. Now, let's take, how does the bhavanga, right? How does the bhavanga occur? Now, there is something called, now this whole Javana bhavanga process runs here. The moment the bhavanga is impinged, bhavanga chalana, bhavanga upacheda, right? There are three breaking down: bhavanga chalana, and bhavanga upacheda. Tell me, at what moment does the object impinge? What moment do you think the object impinges?
During bhavanga?
During bhavanga.
Deep sleep.
Right? Sorry? Did someone else say something else?
I said deep sleep.
Deep sleep. So bhavanga. Right? Bhavanga. The object impinges at bhavanga. Hence, what happens? Bhavanga chalana. That is the maturation stage of the object. Now, what happens? The bhavanga is arrested, upacheda. Then arises what? Then arises panchadwara vajana, 5 sense door adverting, right? Panchadwara avajana, and then into chakku vinyana, eye consciousness. Into eye consciousness, right? Now, the object needed this space, this span for the impingement process. It was only a disturbance of the bhavanga flow. Do you understand, everyone? There was no object that was taken, but the bhavanga was disturbed. The bhavanga was disturbed. What did the mind do? The mind tracked where the disturbance occurred. Where did the disturbance occur? And how did the mind track it? The mind tracked it with this part here. Panchadwara vajana. Right? When the mind tracked where the disturbance occurred, what did it do? The rootless consciousness arose to impinge, to see what was this object that disturbed my sleep. That is a chakku vinyana. Or it can be the body consciousness, it can be the ear consciousness, it can be the taste consciousness. Someone puts something into your mouth while you're sleeping, someone throws some water on you, right? Whatever it is, the object is grasped then at chakku vinyana, right? Now this chakku vinyana object, what happens after chakku vinyana, right? We have eye consciousness, right? Eye consciousness goes into eye consciousness. Eye consciousness goes into receiving, right? Receiving, investigating. Investigating goes into mind do adverting or vottapana, right? This is just general knowledge, everyone, just for you, but I'm going to go into greater depth at the third chapter when we do Chitta Wheaties. So you see, there is an eye consciousness. Now the object has been grasped. The object, now look at this. It needs one mind moment, correct? It needs one mind moment. The object, now I'm going to draw that in green, everyone. The object arose, matured, was ready for impact. Does that make sense? Now you see I consciousness and investigating, they had the receiving consciousness there. That is the process where the I conscious, that maturation of object occurred. Right? The maturation of object occurred. That object that matured at investigating, that is why they call it investigating. Because that is when the object matures. Matures enough to what? Matures enough to now change the course of what? The mind. Does that make sense? Does that make sense, everyone? Right? Always remember, a chitta needs an object grasped by the consciousness, needs one mind moment to mature. Needs one mind moment to mature. Is that clear? Does that make sense? What are your questions? Yes, Ravini.
So Bhante, that means everything that we think we're experiencing in the present is actually sort of has already happened one Chittakshana ago. Is that right?
My gosh, Ravini. The thing is this. We are talking about mental processes, right, at this moment. Ravini and everyone else, up until we break apart or come into the position of seeing mind arising and passing moment to moment, you will always perceive what happens during the Javana process. Do you understand? During the Javana process, during the process of impulsions, which comes after Vottapana, right? After Vottapana, what happens? 7 javanas run. 7 javanas. So 7 different types, 7 of the same types of chittas, 7 of them run. This is the process that we are usually aware of. This is the process that we are usually aware of. Right? So when we say present moment, we are usually aware of what happens with the Javana process running. That is where the karma is created. That is the most powerful part of the sense or any sort of mental process, the javanas, the impulsions, which I will explain to you in greater depth later when it comes to the right time. But just simply understand that when an impingement of the object happens, it needs one mind moment. Now, everyone, can you see why there is a receiving and investigating? That is what I want you to understand here. Not the Chittavitis. Chittavitis come in chapter 3. So don't you worry about it if you can't understand, if the words are too new. I simply want you to understand this. The object is received into the mind, impinged, cognized, and the I consciousness you see here. The object needs one mind moment to mature. That mind moment is called receiving. Does that make sense? Once the object matures, now it's ready to go on its course of impact, whatever impact the object, pleasant or unpleasant, regardless. The object is now graspable by the mind. That process happens, right? That is what investigating is, because it is at investigating that the object matures enough to now be processed by the mind. Is that clear, everyone? Does that make sense?
Can I ask a question, please, Bhante?
Hiranti?
No, so during the Javana state, the Chittaviti, only we note it even.
Yes.
Before that, we don't know even when something.
You don't know up until you do Nama Rupa Paricheda Jnana, you don't know. It is only at the moment of Nama Rupa Paricheda, the discernment of mind and matter, that you will truly know what the process of mind work is.
So before that, Sampadichana, Santirna, Vattapana, those things will happen.
For a person who does not meditate, for a person who does not meditate, they will never know. Right? Okay. So present moment experience at that time would be the impulsions or the impact of the jhavanas. And these happen so fast, everyone. They happen so fast. But what becomes prominent to us is always that jhavana, right? Is always that jhavana.
But I was under the impression that you do the yoniso manasikara before that, during Vattapana stage. Then if you, let's say, you meet somebody.
These questions, right? There is an answer to all these questions that you're asking, right? But for me to answer them, I need to explain to you Chittaviti, right? So hang on to that question, right? Hang on to that question, and they will all be answered in the third chapter, right? Because I will have to explain to you that in one cognition of an object, there are a minimum of, for a normal person, 7 Chittavitis that run. One process taking form, one process taking color, one process taking name, one process taking form, there are 7, right? I will explain all of that to you, right? But at the third chapter. Today, I simply want you to realize, because the Sampadichana and Santirna is because the names are very deceiving, right? It's very deceiving. Because it is easy for a person to think, oh, investigating, oh, the object is known, but quite the opposite, right? That is why I went into this amount of detail to tell you, look here, any object that now starts at the Chakku Vinyana needs one mind moment to mature. So the Chakku Vinyana takes the object, cognizes the object. During receiving, the object matures within that mind moment. The object is ready for impact on the investigating, right? And then that final product of investigating is what is taken by Manodvara Vachana. Right?
It's a Manodvara Vachana, we call it Vattapana, but in English, I think you call it determinating. Is it because you...
No, mind-o-adverting. We call it mind-o-adverting.
No, sorry, and then, yes, then you get the Vattapana.
There's another word called determining, right? There's another word called determining. And determining, which is the determination of Yonis Manasakara, right attention or wrong attention.
So that happens
now.
Doesn't that happen at mind-o-adverting? And isn't that it? So at mind-o-adverting,
not the place, not the place. Yes, just focus on the maturation, because you're asking me a question with regards to Chittaviti, not this chapter.
Okay,
right? Now.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sure.
In that maturation period, receiving an investigation, I know there is a Somanassa and Upekka. I just wondered how that two came up.
Yes.
One became Somanassa and one became Upekka.
One became Somanassa and one became Upekka. Now, in the investigating, right, the make venni omaka, right? The omaka, this is not in this chapter.
It is here, Bhante, in that chapter. So it is in this chapter.
It is in this chapter, but the explanation is not in this chapter, right? But what happens is, when a kusala is created, some kusalas are quite strong and powerful. Some kusalas are weak, right? And when that happens, what happens is there's two types of investigation, which is the Somanassa one and the Upekka one. The powerful impingements is seen as Somanassa, right? The powerful impingement, because when the object matures, there is Somanassa there. The weaker impingements are seen as Upekka. That's simply it, right? Right? But then remember, Ahetuka. Ahetuka, these are passive, exhaustive. They are passive and they are exhaustive, right? Hence, they arise, they do their little function, they pass away, right? However, they do a prominent role in the course of cognition, which is this. It is because of these ahetuka chittas that we are able to cognize sense objects, right? Cognize sense objects. Udayanti?
Bhante, it's about the bhavanga thing. So you said it occurs only in deep sleep and in between occasionally. What happens when you're in deep samadhi and you feel as if you're not thinking?
The vibration of the trihetuka kusala chitta.
Okay.
The vibration, the trihetuka kusala chitta vibrates in the javana.
Oh, okay.
Vibrates
Right.
in javana. But we'll be going into that deeper at the Chitta Vicha chapter.
Okay.
Right?
Thank you.
Now, at this process, in this chapter, everyone, there will be a lot of things that you will simply have to accept just because I say it or the book says it. The refining knowledge is going to come in the rest of the chapters. Right? This is going to be a base. So now, for example, if you're going to talk about Bhavanga, we have to go to Chitta Viti. Right? Bhavanga, we had to go into Chitta Viti. Now, remember, all of these things will fall into place. Like Hiranti asked a question, I can't answer it, right? Dil was trying to ask a question, I can't answer it. Why? It's not in this chapter. If I go there, I had to explain the whole chapter for you to understand it without that doubt, right? But know for now, the qualities of ahetuka, what are they? They are passive. They are exhaustive. They play a role in supporting cognition, right? But knowing of the object is not done by ahetuka chitta. Knowing of the object is done through a karma chitta, that is a rooted chitta. Do you understand? The knowing of the object is done by a rooted chitta. Is that clear?
Is that at Javana levels?
That is Javana. Right? So in what Udayanti asked, what happens when you're meditating? What happens is the Manodvara Vajana would give rise to now the appropriate processing. There are so many Javana chittas that perform the Javana function, those arise and they vibrate for 7 moments and pass. Right? And everyone, you can see this. In Vidarshana, you can see the mental process. That is how we realize that every conscious, that there is no self. We will discern self in each and every consciousness that arises in the Chitta Viti, starting from the Bhavanga. How do we break down Anatta Lakkana in smell? We attribute to the heart base and the Gana Pasada. Then the mind goes into smell because smell only exists within the nostrils here. So the mind is taken to the smell and you feel smell, right? And you break down within smell, within a kalapa, there is saddha, gandha, rasa, oja, right? There's gandha, that smell in a kalapa. That you can break down, right? But to break it down, you have to tap into the mind base. Where is the mind base? The Hade Vastu. All of this this is not hullabaloo, right? This can be done, everyone. This can be done, right? So just understand the important point is not the Bhavanga. The important point is not anything else. Simply understand Samparichana and Santina because Samparichana and Santina performs a couple of other functions that you will learn in the future, right? Samparichana is the moment where that object matures. Santirna is the object where the object is now ready for impact. Where does the impact occur? The impact occurs at the mind door. Do you understand? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Right? Does that make sense? Okay. Now, for today, shall we conclude the class here for today?
Yes, please.
Bhante, can I have just
yes.
Mano Dwara Varjana and Vottapana the same meaning?
Same. But we will do it next week because we don't have time now. We'll do it next week. Manodvara, Vajrana, and Vottapana. Now, although these are rootless chittas, again, everyone, very important. Very, very important. Right? I would say to the breaking down of Nama Rupa, this section is the most important.
So, Bhante, Manodvara Vajrana is Vottapana. Then Vottapana is also determining.
Hari ඉතින් කමක් නැහැ. දෙකක් වෙන්න පුළුවන්නේ.
හරි.
You are a mother and a wife. So why can't you do this?
Manodvara Vajrana as Vottapana, and then I also determining. So I was getting all confused, but thank you. Hari දෙකකට යන්න.
No. තාම අපි කරලා නැහැනේ. ඒක ඊළඟ සත්‍යෙට අපිට තියෙන්නේ. හරි. ඔතකොට determination කියන වචනේ අපි පාවිච්චි කරනවා අර මනෝ අර යෝනිසමනස්කාරය අයෝනිසමනස්කාරය කියන තැන එනකොට. වොත්තපන කියන එක මෙව කරනවා පාවිච්චි කරනවා අපි වෙන තැනක. Right? So we must understand that.
Thank you.
Any other questions, anyone, before we wrap up today's session?
Bhante, what are you going to do on Sunday, please? Because I can't attend. Sunday මොනවද කරන්නේ, Bhante?
Sunday මොනවද කරන්න කියලා තාම හිතලවත් නැහැ.
එහෙනම් කමන්නේ.
මේ Sunday අපි කරන්නේ කර්මස්ථාන කරලා අපි තව ඉන්ද්‍රිය භාවනා ඉන්ද්‍රිය නෙමෙයි මේ අපි
material elements
ධාතු ටික සම්පූර්ණ කරනවා ධාතු කර්මස්ථාන ටික සම්පූර්ණ කරලා මේ මොකද එදා ඊයේ නේද අපි කරේ කොටසයි. So we will be doing a longer session on the dhatus tomorrow, on Sunday, and then we'll be doing the Kamathana.
Yeah, you have the recording, no, Bhante?
Yes.
Yeah, so I will look forward for that.
All right. Hari. Enang siyulu denatama. Rivini, you have a question?
Bhante, what time is the Bhavana class on Sundays, please?
2 o'clock, Rivini. 2 till 5, everyone. And we might just go on if there are questions or whatnot. Because I feel like now last time we couldn't do the meditation session because we ran out of time. And so we will simply 2 p.m. onwards. Okay.
Thank you, Bhante.
Take care, everyone. See you later.
Teruvan saranai, Bhante.